Now, after getting acquainted with all of the equipment and practicing a bit of recoil control, what we want to go ahead and do is go to our settings right here, right there, and make sure that we press on the graphics right here and we have the right settings. It's very important. Now, if you have a very advanced phone that can operate on 90 FPS, you want to go ahead and choose 90 FPS. If not, you choose extreme. Okay, so it's either 90 FPS or extreme. It's very important. It's going to be on this the highest frame rate. Also graphics up here. We don't want balance, we don't want HD, we don't want nothing. We don't want smooth, we want 90 FPS if possible, and that's all. This is the best way to run the game, period. Style doesn't really matter, so it's like you can play with it. That's it. That's the most important settings for the beginning. You want to go ahead and make sure that you have it checked the proper way. Now, all the other stuff like controls and sensitivity is going to come later. Now, what we want to go ahead and do is first of all get acquainted with the different modes we have in Pubg Mobile and when to use them. We're gonna go ahead and press select mode, and then we have all 4 of these modes over here. Classic is basically the whole point of the game. I mean, that's the mode. So we want to go ahead and start by playing classic actually, but only a few matches. A good map to start is Erangel. It's like the classic map. So we're going to choose this map. We're going to play as much matches as needed to just get acquainted with the concept of the game and the map, like how it looks and where places are. It's very important to know your terrain. So I would assume 5 games or so would be enough. We don't want to get too drawn into playing this mode at the beginning, because we're not going to be as effective as we can be if we practice other modes first. So I would recommend definitely playing like 5 matches, maybe, I don't know, 10 tops, if you really feel like you wanna walk around and see everything and just get acquainted. But really don't waste your time. I mean, you wanna develop some skill before you continue playing classic. And the best way to do that is the other modes, okay? Because in classic, if you die, you die, and also it affects your rating. Now, another tip I want to give about the rating. Over here at the right top screen corner, we have North America, as you can see. If I press on it, it gives me the option to change that to different servers. Okay, as you can see, I'm not from North America, so the best servers for me are Europe and Middle East. The less MS you see, the better the performance is, and if you have a powerful phone, you can play other servers up to a certain level. For example, my phone and my connection allows me to play all the way up to like 250, 300 ms, so I'm fine playing in North America, for example, but South America would be like already borderline for me. Now, what is important about the servers? Each server has a different ranking, like your score is saved per server. So if your main server is going to be North America, for example, what you want to go ahead and do is select a different server with a reasonable MS to practice in. It's not only a tip for beginners, it's also and mostly for advanced players. So you want to go ahead and remember that if you want to practice classic or just look at places and get to know the map, the best way to do that is select a server which you don't care about your ranking. Okay? Now, the other modes. Arcade. Here we got 3 different modes. They are not always available. They have certain days they are available in. For example, War mode is locked at the moment. Quick match is just a nice fun game basically, and it has a lot of random settings and stuff. It's like one game is only shotguns, another game is all the weapons, another game is like it's called item heaven, so it's very different. It's okay, it's fun to play, but I wouldn't recommend it actually for practice. What I do recommend for practice is definitely sniper training and definitely war. Now, when and why would you use these modes? I would recommend using war at the beginning or after using team deathmatch in arena. Okay, I will explain why. First of all, sniper training. Sniper training is something you want to go ahead and practice in only if you really care about sniping, and also not before you start playing with 3 fingers. Okay, at the beginning you will start with your default settings, but what you want to go ahead and do, especially in a team deathmatch, is gradually start playing with the setup you have of where your buttons are located. I will just show this so it will be clearer. Back to settings. We have the controls. Okay, we're going to customize the controls, and we can see it's right here. Now, an important thing to know, okay, exit, is that you can see here arena and classic. So if we want to choose arena, for example, and customize it, we can copy the classic TPP mode. It's right here in the middle, and if we press this copy, it asks us copy, and we can say OK or cancel. So basically, if we use the same setup, we want to copy it from classic, and classic is like the main one. Okay, because from classic in classic, sorry, you can't copy from arena, only the other way around. So this is where we play with the buttons. As you can see, we can move the firing button, we can move this one, whatever we want. Okay, so basically we change the size, opacity, transparency, button size, everything. So what we want to go ahead and do is make it as comfortable as we can for us to do as many actions, as many things at once, and not get in the way. That's why it's so important to have a firing button over here, not only over here. When the game first starts, it gives you the default layout. You only have this firing button. You want to go ahead and add this button over here as soon as possible, assuming you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, well, it's just, you know, the same thing, just the other way around. Why is that important? Because in order to use semi-automatic weapons while running and jumping and doing other stuff, we have to have this button over here. Okay, because it's like an extra firing button. And with time, you probably would not even need this button, but not necessarily, because some pro players actually keep this button, and it's a good way for them to measure stability while spraying full auto to long distance. So it's not a bad idea to keep this button. I personally don't keep it, because I put my button over here because I use sniping a bit differently. I use a release fire, so I have to have, and I use 5 fingers, so I have to have basically 2 buttons, one for release fire and one for fire, but this one is only for fire. I never use another button to fire, and it's a good idea, and just neurologically, because your instinct will always be to go here, and you wouldn't need to think if you use this button or the other one, because the other one just has a different purpose, or you just take it out all together. You can just make it small, put it somewhere here or whatever, somewhere you don't need it, and then you don't use it. Another thing is important to understand: the button over here, when we get it in default somewhere over here, it's the button you can press, like the firing button you can press upon and keep moving. This one is different. It's not like this. It's only for like tapping, like single fire. So yeah, that's also a good thing to know before playing with the settings, that they are not actually identical. They act differently. That's it. If we press exit, we can don't save, of course, after all the mess I made. And That's about the settings. Now, going back to the modes, which mode is the best to train on, especially at first? In my opinion, it's either Team Deathmatch or War. Both of them are very extreme, so it's going to be difficult, but at the same time, it's very good for practice and you get to respawn a lot. I would recommend starting actually from Team Deathmatch, just because of the high pace of the game and the fast respawn. So it's the perfect practice. It's a short game. It's shorter than the war mode. I wouldn't say it's less difficult, but it's more beginner friendly, and it's just a very good way to gain skill with all types of weapons. Okay, we also have arena training. Arena training is probably even better for beginners because in Team Deathmatch you actually have progress with the weapons. If you check out the loadout, you can see I have these loadouts, and all the weapons I have are already like maxed out. Okay, basically you advance the weapons. If I choose this one, okay, it's not maxed out. Okay, a bad example. Let's see this one. It is not maxed out. It's only level 10 or whatever. So I can only use attachments up to level 10. I can't use the 12 one, 13 or 17 one. Okay, because this is not a weapon I usually use. So a good place to start will be arena training, and the weapons will be available for you at the game itself. You don't need a loadout or anything like that in advance, even though I see you have, okay, it's not for that. Yeah, so you don't need a loadout in advance. You just jump into this mode and just play. And once you feel like you wanna add the third finger button, basically the firing button, go ahead and do that. This is the perfect place just to move your buttons around and get acquainted with the specific weapons that are like the most common and the ones you want to use at first. I would recommend M4 definitely, like M416. This is the perfect weapon to use as a beginner and also both as a pro. It's just so accurate and reliable, predictable firing spray, quicker reload, really a good weapon. Gun game. Gun game is also not a bad idea for practice. Gun game gives you different guns, but it's very difficult. It's a very difficult mode. It can be fun to play if you got skill already, but it can also get you acquainted with different weapons and kind of force you to become good with them. So that's not a bad idea to train in this mode as well. I would recommend to train in this mode as little as possible compared to the other ones. So you start by playing Team Deathmatch. This is the perfect place to keep modifying your basically your buttons, right? Your setup, your controls. Just in the middle of the game, in between games, anytime you can, you feel like something is not comfortable on the screen for you, modify it, play around with it. This is the best way to become as good as possible in as little time as possible, because if you just keep the default controls for like a month or two, like you're really doing yourself a disservice. This is the place to start, in my opinion. Team Deathmatch, and that's all, nothing else. You start with Team Deathmatch. After this, once available, you can play War. War is the kind of mode that gives you a random class of weapon. So you have SMGs, submachine guns, you have ARs like assault rifles, and you have the bolt action sniper rifles. So it's random. You're gonna jump and you're gonna be able to see on your back what kind of weapon you have while jumping, and therefore know which mode you got before even landing. It's just a very chaotic mode, and the weapons don't have attachments, so it's a good way to develop skill because you really have to work hard to work your weapons. I personally use this mode only for training as a sniper, because the the sniping, once you get like the bolt action, Car 98 and AWM are available. It's a very good way to become a good sniper because everything happens very fast. There's a lot of action. It's a small map. People keep dropping and respawning. Nobody really dies. And basically it teaches you how to stay on the move and not become mobile, because it's like really stationary. Once you become stationary, even for a second, you just get headshotted and like you respawn. So it's a good mode to practice sniping. So that's it. My main mode I recommend is arena training. If you want to advance weapons and stuff and you have time for it, you can do team deathmatch, but it's basically the same. It's the same map. It's the just different rules, because this one is a level playing field. Everybody has the same weapons, and here you kind of advance your weapons. So this one is definitely the most recommended to start and to switch your controls with. Okay, and war mode is just a additional way to practice, but I would recommend doing like 80% arena training and like 20% war mode, and all the rest is for more advanced stages and like very specific. Like if you want to learn sniping, then do war mode and try to do only the Car 98 one. If you do sniper training, you should have the 3-finger claw setup, which enables you to run and jump while tapping single fire, because you will have DMRs there. DMRs are like the semi-automatic rifles. And that's it. And of course the last one I told you about, gun game, is like a extra option if you want to challenge yourself in getting acquainted with the weapons and just have a hard and fun time. You can try this mode. That's it. After you develop a bit of skill, go back to classic. You already have your new controls. Your performance is smooth because it shows the right settings, and there you go. Welcome to PUBG.